Welcome back. In this section, I'll just briefly go over the linear components. So we're not going to use every one of these features. They're basically exactly what they are. They're self-explanatory. The linear component, for example, they're the same features that we've used in our previous using the parts, where we create copies of whatever features we want, whatever components we want, and make copies of them. We can also mirror them. So we can mirror this component over here if we want, or on this side, wherever we want. And we can do circular patterns as well. For this one, let's go ahead and use the linear component pattern. Now the first thing it will ask you is the direction. Now you always, for direction, or for, in my experience, I always like to use a line for direction. So if I want it in this direction or in this direction, doesn't matter which way the arrow points, I can always reverse that. And I'll show you how to do that later. So for example, let's say I want to copy this part this way, back and forth, okay? So I'm going to choose this line. You're going to get that arrow that's saying the direction is over here. You can actually click on the arrow and to reverse that direction. Click on this arrow is the same as clicking on the reverse direction button over here. If I go over here and I click it, you're going to see that the button up top over here is selected or clicked. Okay, so we're going to use this direction as the regular direction to creating those parts. Okay, now right now I already have something that says I'm making 4 parts of this, and I haven't chosen the components yet. And the distance in between them, let's go ahead and change that to 3 inches. Okay, so 3 inches, I got that to 3 inches. And then come over to here. Now you can also select direction too. So for example, if I want this to be copied in both this direction and this direction, I can do that as well. So for example, if I want direction 2 to also be, click over here, and also be in this direction, I can do that as well. Now, when you say direction 2, usually what you're doing is you're trying to pick another direction. So for example, it switched to direction 2, it switched because I've selected that same edge. Okay, so for this one, if I select this direction, now I'm copying in both this direction and this direction. So let's go ahead and do that for both and see what happens. Okay, so for this one, let's go ahead and change this to 5 inches. And for this one, let's go ahead and change this to 2 inches. And let's go ahead and change this to 4. Now nothing's gonna appear yet. So this is just the amount of copies I'm doing, and this is just the amount of distance. Like I said, this is the same feature we've used when we're doing the sketches and our part designs, but we're doing this in the assembly. Okay, the nice thing about this, the only difference about this is the components to pattern. For example, I'm gonna choose this, and it's gonna give me already a certain amount of components to pattern, and I'm also gonna choose my screw. Okay, so that will allow both these components to be copied. Now this looks a little bit jumbled up. If I actually maybe change this one to 3 inches, that will help space them up. So right now, what it did is I told it in this direction, which is this one, I want 4 of them created 5 inches apart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and each from this line to this line right here, zoom in a little bit, from this line right here to this line is 5 inches apart. So that's why they're created this way. All right, the second direction is this one, and it's 3 inches apart. So every one of these from this line to this line right here are 3 inches up. All right, and so this is also for the instances as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so like I said, it's very, very similar to it. You can also click on instances to skip. All you have to do is, for example, click on an instant and it will disappear. For example, I'm going to click on random ones to disappear, and they'll disappear, and then click on OK. And what we'll do, SolidWorks will create your instances minus the ones that you did not want. Okay, so that's the linear component. It's the same thing for circular pattern, for pattern-driven components, and all of those. Now, I'll go through some of them while I'm creating my exercises. In my next 2 exercises, I'll be going over some of them, but not all of them. They're very self-explanatory and very easy to use. Okay, and I've already went through the circular one in our previous chapter as well. So that's how you use the linear component, and very, very similar to the linear component in both the sketch mode and the parts mode or the feature mode in when we're designing a part.